So let's talk about division. And let's start out with this scenario. -6 times -2. Well, a negative times a negative, and here I'll put that little multiplication sign in there, +12. So what I'm going to do, this is an idea of opposites, and this is going to come up in algebra. The opposite of multiplying, say by 2, now let's say we take this 20, we divide by 2, we get back to 10. So timesing 2 will get us the 20, but dividing 2 gets us back to 10. It's like we start out at A, step A is 10, and we get to B by timesing 2, get 20, but then we get back to 10, we divide by 2. So these are opposite operators. So we're going to talk about this in algebra. So division and multiplication are opposites, and then addition and subtraction are opposites. So in this case, we'll divide by a -2. And this means we could cancel that out. They're opposites, they cancel it out. Multiplying by 10 by 2 gets you to 20, but then dividing by 2 gets you back to 10. So multiplying by 2 and then dividing by 2, it just gets you back to where you started. So we'll just cancel those, gets us back to, this case, we started with -6. But another thing with algebra, what you do to one side, you've got to do to the other. And we'll talk more about this later. This is getting ahead. So what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. And so what does this actually mean, though? 12 divided by -2. Well, we have a clue. These canceled out, leaving behind a -6. So what this says is a positive divided by a negative gives you a negative. So positive divided by a negative equals a negative number. All right. Now let's consider this. -6 times 2. Well, this is a negative times a positive, and we get a negative. Now again, let's do that opposites. Let's divide by 2. So these two, those should cancel. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. Again, we'll talk about this in algebra, but you can treat the equal sign as like a scale. And if you want to keep the scale balanced, the equal sign says you must keep it balanced. If you remove half the weight on this side, you've got to also remove half the weight on this side to keep it level. So that's what we're doing. If we divide this by 2, we also got to divide that by 2. But we'll talk more about that later. Again, we're getting ahead. So negative divided by positive, what did this turn out to be? Well, it came out again to -6. So we've got this scenario where now we had a negative divided by a positive. It again came out negative. Now notice that these have different signs and they're coming out negative. It's the same thing that happened with multiplication. So let's go back to this here, our -6 times 2, and that's going to be -12. And now let's divide the -6. So you're multiplying by -6. We're now dividing by -6. They're opposites. Multiplication and division by the same number cancel out. But what we did to one side, we have to do to the other. So what we get is -12 divided by -6. So what's this going to be? Well, on this left side, there's a 2 left, and we don't have to keep the parentheses. We can drop those. So we have a negative divided by negative, came out positive. Lastly, if we take, say, 2 times 6 equal to 12, divide by 6, we'll get 2, because these will cancel, and we have 12 divided by 6 on this other side. Again, we're using that algebra trick that we'll talk about later. And then, well, this is a positive divided by a positive, gave us a positive. So here's the pattern. When the signs are the same, division turns out positive. And when the signs are different, division turns out negative. It's the exact same pattern as with multiplication. So for example, negative 20 divided by 4. Well, a negative divided by a positive will be negative because the signs are different. Likewise, 6 divided by negative, say, 1.5. This is positive divided by negative, so the answer is going to be negative. In this case, negative 4. Finally, say we have negative 3 1/2 divided by negative 1/2. Well, negative divided by negative, because the signs are the same, we're going to get positive. So signs are different, negative. Signs are different, negative. Signs are the same, the answer we're going to get is positive. And so we get positive 7. And that's it. So just to summarize, for multiplication, positive times positive is positive. Negative times negative, also positive. But then positive times negative is negative. Negative times positive is also negative. When the signs are the same, it's positive. When the signs are different, it's negative. For division, exact same pattern. Positive divided by positive is positive. Negative divided by negative is also positive. Positive divided by negative is negative. Negative divided by positive is negative. That's it. So any questions about that, let me know.